everyone, Leani Lopez here with another episode of I Got Nothing, a podcast for exhausted writers. I am joined by another exhausted writer. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Ryan Null. I'm the author of the Flare Chronicles. I write dark fantasy, epic high fantasy, and a spicy romancy series that is launching July 1st, along with two other books. I am an international author and a multi award winning author as well.
Congratulations on all of that. And this is actually going to be coming out around the time of your release, so extra excitement. Yay!
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've worked really hard on it, and so far I've got a lot of great feedback, all positive. No one said anything negative about it. I've got book 3 coming out too to finish my epic high fantasy series called the Flare Chronicles, and then a journal that is the covers designed by a 6th grader all at the same time. So July will be very busy.
Yeah, sounds like it. And did you always know you wanted to be a writer, or is this something that came about later in life?
Well, I always knew I wanted to be a reader, so I started reading about 300 books a year in middle school. And I love reading. I just love the imagination and going home and getting lost in a book, till 10 o'clock midnight and kind of be transported somewhere else, I guess you'd say. And then my 8th grade teacher gave us a challenge to write something unique. And I really was not good at all at writing. It's 8th grade. I mean, that's just not the cool thing to do is write. So I wrote one of the prequels for the Flare Chronicles, ended up winning the best of the class. And then she kind of pulled me aside and told me I had the writing skill, that I should keep doing it. So I wrote another prequel, and she really loved that one and said I'd be a writer someday. And so all of high school, I wrote the Flare Chronicles Into the Blaze. So I really try to give tribute to teachers and her for kind of push me towards that direction.
That's amazing. I had a teacher who was very similar in regards to supporting me being a writer, but they weren't my teacher, they were my uncle. But he was a teacher, and he just knew how to talk to kids, and he is so creative. I'm sure he's probably listening to this now.
Right.
So yeah, having that person, that older adult who is also a teacher and an educator, like, be in your corner is amazing. It's such a wonderful feeling to have someone who is like a professional that you look up to be like, no, you can do this and you should be doing this.
It is. It was really inspiring. At that point in time, I was really just a reader reading everything. And my dad's a tool and die. He's been a tool and die maker for, gosh, probably 30, 40 years now. And so, building things with his hands was kind of his idea. That's what he knew. He went to college for. He don't really read much, just watch TV. And so she was a big inspiration and push for that because, I didn't really know what I was going to be do as I got older. And she was always there to help me and kind of guide me along the way. She passed away because of breast cancer, I think, when I was in high school or shortly after. But I've always tried to really pay tribute to her and teachers. And even my books are dedicated to her just because, if it wasn't for her, I kind of wouldn't be where I'm at today. So
That's a wonderful tribute. I mean, I can't think of a better one.
yeah, she was a great person. She was really well loved among the community. When I grew up in a small town, so everybody knew everybody, and she just touched so many lives that I feel it wouldn't be right if I didn't kind of honor her name and that tribute. And I enjoyed writing, and now I enjoy writing a lot. And I've been called a very prophetic, I believe the terminology is for, but I write a lot. I just don't have a lot of time, so.
I mean, yeah, when the ideas are flowing, you kind of just have to go with it whenever you can carve out that, few moments.
Yeah.
And so it's so funny that you were like, 8th grade writing wasn't cool because I just like cut to 8th grade me who always had a notebook and who always was like typing on her laptop in class when she probably should have been taking notes.
Right.
And I just had this mental flashback. And I was like, yeah, no, yeah, I get it.
Right. Well, I mean, my background's in IT, and that's what I've got 10 years or more of experience, and that's kind of, I was always the computer nerd, I guess you'd say, working and building on computers and nerdy at that. So writing was kind of a whole different adventure. I had read books, but I never imagined me being on the other side until she really started pushing it. So I was just good with computers and the kind of weird, awkward guy in middle school.
Yeah, that tracks. Same for me. Like, I'm just like, yeah, just nodding along, like, same childhood. But there is something, I feel like the best writers are voracious readers. Like, people who consume books or, any other kind of media, it just opens your creativity so much and you get exposed to so many different stories. Like, for me personally, it's like, how could I not try to write my own after reading all of these amazing worlds?
Right. I mean, I was there too. So I read a lot of Dragonlance and Eragon and Harry Potter and, Dungeons and Dragons. I played a lot. I read a lot of Forgotten Realms. And it's like, I want to do something like that. I mean, that would be cool. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I make my own custom maps. The Flare Chronicles took about 80 hours, the world of Azerin, and then the Spicy Romancy, that map is set in the world of Umbria, and that took about 120 hours. So I just wanted to have something like, Dragonlance has, where they've got this massive map and they've got 300 books
Yeah.
written and 60 authors collaborating. I mean, that's just such an accomplishment, and I thought, well, I could do something like that too. So,
Yeah, yeah, and I love that you said D&D because I didn't get into D&D until I was older, till basically quarantine. That's when we were like, we're stuck here. We have Discord. Let's play some D&D and like detach from whatever's going on out there. But it was really D&D that gave me an appreciation for world building because prior to that, it was my least favorite part of writing was world building, especially creating like my own fantasy world. I wanted to, but then I would get so overwhelmed that I would kind of backtrack. So playing D&D and then eventually becoming a DM led to me having an actual appreciation for world building. And I actually kind of found like a map making generator and things like that and started making my own maps for my own series, which is now I've got like an atlas and like all these like things that I would not have even attempted unless I had played D&D first.
Oh, I know. What's interesting is world building is such a common thing that readers and people are curious about in general. I mean, I get asked about the world building probably the most. I'm actually have a event called I think it's the Akron Authors Convention, but it's in Ohio and it's in September. I'm actually doing a workshop on world building because
Oh,
I
that's so cool.
I just been asked so much about it because people are fascinated with that and maps and kind of creating that originality. It comes up, frequently.
Yeah, it does, especially in this day and age where we are so much more media heavy than we used to be. So more people are seeking out visuals to go with stories or like audio to go with stories and things like that. So I I was chatting with my friend on Discord and I was telling her about my series. We had just kind of met. And then I was like, oh, I have a map. And she was like, oh my God. Like she was so excited. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to have an artist friend draw it and it'll be in the book. And I didn't have the appreciation for it until recently, how much it just really gives your setting just another level. Like another level of authenticity to be like, yes, this is my setting, and here is the map where you can look at a visual of what it looks like.
Right, I know. It kind of gives that extra layer that people are looking for.
Yeah.
And it's a very common thing, and it's very cool to visualize that as well because you can see it. So not only does it help the readers, but as you're writing and stuff, you can figure out where things are, you can figure out sense of direction. I mean, all those things that you can visually see with the map, it does help tremendously.
Yeah, as the writer, you kind of need to know what their path is. And I mean, knowing mentally is great, but I know for me, having like a physical, like, I took the map, printed it out, and like drew my own territories and like circled like the cities they go to. And it felt so tangible. I was like, yes, I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing.
I agree. I actually sell my map. It's one of the biggest things I sell, but I always try to put it on display for events and that because it really draws readers in. And then, it's really cool being on the other side where I get to show kind of the path of the books. And
Mhm.
what I've done in my books is I've put the map. Um, I'm working on something different for the new stuff coming, but I've also put like a zoomed in kind of black and white spot where people can look and say, "Hey, this is where they've traveled to in just this book alone." So hopefully it plays off and people enjoy it. But I enjoy making maps myself.
That's awesome. And does the world building develop as you're writing, or do you kind of set the world first before you start writing the story? Or does it change depending on what you're working on?
Well, I kind of do it backwards. The Azarin, so I kinda I still have actually the 2 pieces of paper I had taped together in high school that, a little hand drawn kinda sorta
Yep.
map because we had dial up, so there was no internet, you kinda had to
Nope.
do things old fashioned back in the
With
'90s.
that printer paper with the
Yeah,
perforated sides,
yeah.
like, yeah. Yeah. I
We
remember
weren't that
very clearly.
lucky. And so that's what I used, and then I kinda built the world around it in my map building software. Now, I did the same thing in the Land of Umbria. I wrote the story, and then I built the map after. I had to do some adjustments just based upon going back on the story and directional wise, I guess, since, to make it fit, but I do have like master spreadsheets and Word documents that help with naming and different places. And traditionally, I have a master Excel sheet for every world or story, and it's got like my own magic language I create. It's got a little tab for every continent. I color code my continents. It's got tribes, mountains. I mean, kind of all kind of temples, all kinds of stuff on it, just to help me look at the data and see where I want to go to next.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one who uses spreadsheets and is like
Yeah.
super organized for stuff like that. It's just so helpful, and it looks really nice to my brain to have stuff in a spreadsheet and be like, okay, yes, I can find it this way. I know what
It
I'm looking
is.
for.
Right, and I mean, it's not so bad, but when you're trying to build, like, a multiverse, I mean, man, that those spreadsheets and Word documents, they're invaluable, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just started using Scrivener for
Mhm.
plotting my series because it's going to be multiple books, and I needed a spot that I could easily navigate, and my documents were getting out of hand. And I love being able to just sort through all my like character information or place information like in one spot. Like I do my writing elsewhere, it's purely for like world building organization. So, I mean, when you work on this story, when you're building this series, you are building a world and you are expanding, past the words and going visual, what did it feel like when you wrote that first book, when you finished that first book?
Wow. Well, I was really humble and grateful, and I think a lot of readers and maybe writers more than readers, I guess, being on the other side of things, there's this kind of sense of pride and accomplishment, like, hey, I did it, I pieced it together. But there's also that not really doubt, but I guess self concern, like, what if people don't like it, or what if it doesn't sell, or what if, no one will carry it or read it or review it. Like, it kind of holds, it's tangible, so it holds something dear to your heart, just like it would a prized possession you bought at a store, your favorite memory that with your grandparents, or your mom and dad. So it felt amazing, but then it's like, well, what if no one reads this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Oh yeah. Oh
mean,
yeah. I've spoken to many authors, and it's a very valid and common concern, because you spend all your time and energy, sometimes years, working on this one book or one story. And then, like, all the memes online, it's like, yes, this took 5 years of my life. And then somebody's like, 3 stars. Like, you're just like, God
right.
damn it.
Well, I know, and it's a very humbling thing, I guess, because there's so many options to choose from. Back in my time, I'm not that old, but I say my time because I remember it. Black and white TVs and the wells and the telephone poles. We had a ring and turned the knob on. I mean, there was no all this technology, but back in the day, if you wanted a library, you went to a bookstore, or you wanted a book, you went to a library or a bookstore, and that's what you did. You rented a book and read it. Well, now, I mean, there's more books being published today than ever, and it's so accessible. There wasn't the Kindle, there wasn't all that cool stuff we have now. So,
Yeah.
it's definitely a different landscape, and I feel like writers and people in general have to be more creative, I guess, to get their work out there and to seen and be heard, because it's just not the same as it used to be 20 years ago.
Yeah. When I published my first book as an ebook, there was no paperback options. This was in 2013, I want to say. And it was like Amazon had just started doing Kindle and ebooks. There was no indie author community to speak of, at least not one that was accessible at the time. So I've witnessed that end of things where it was completely different. And now this side of things, like on the other end in 2026. And I'm just like, if I had had those resources back then, like, it would have been so much different. I probably would have finished that series, my first book, because
Right.
like, because I like, there's so much, yes, there's so much out there, but there's also a lot more support than there used to be. And there's also more people turning to indie publishing.
There is, we've seen a trend, and I mean, a lot of people, it seems, of going this way, is that even some of your big names are turning indie, and they're not doing
Yeah.
traditional publishing. I mean, used to, it was you had to get an agent and you had to be traditionally published, and that's kind of how your career took off. But now what we're seeing is the top five, they're letting the indies do all the work and the marketing and the hype, and the influencers kind of make it go big, and then they're snatching them up and offering these deals. So the market's, kind of gone differently. And even I've seen even some big names not only switch from traditional to indie, but they've done hybrid as well. Some's
Yeah.
indie, some traditional. It's just not the same landscape it used to be 20 years ago.
And then everything's like, there's a new platform to join. You're like, oh, I can't. I'm 37. I don't want to join more social media. Like, I'm
I know.
already done with what. Like, my husband like got rid of all his social media, and I was so jealous. I was like, I can't do that. And so I have to update him on stuff now, like the olden days. And I'm like, oh, this happened, and he was like, oh, I didn't see it, and I'm like, you're so lucky. You
Right.
didn't
I
see
mean, my
anything.
my oldest son did the same thing too, and it's one of those things where it's a necessary evil. I mean, I just spend way too much time trying to market and on
Yep.
social media and trying to get out there, but if you don't, it's just hard to kind of be known, but at the same time, it's really consuming. More consuming than it used to be.
Yeah, and it's exhausting. Even like just posting once a day. Sometimes I'm just like, if I'm not posting regularly, it means I'm actually writing and working. I can't split the focus anymore. Like I just like maybe I'll schedule something, but that also takes time I don't have. And it's just like I just kind of have to just go with what I have time for right now.
I know there's only so many hours in a day, and I remember when it'd be about 2 years now in July when I first started publishing, and I remember I went to this bookstore and they asked about a newsletter and all this stuff. I'm like, no, I don't have that, but I started. And yeah, I remember the owner still chuckling because I was like, "Oh, I got all this time in the world, and now my newsletter takes like 3 days just to send out." I'm like, I see where he was going now. So,
Yeah, for sure. Like starting a website, that was a huge thing when I first, started because I left my full-time job to write full-time and like shelling out money for a decent website was not really in my purview, so I did what I could for like the free service. And then like that service eventually just like wouldn't let me edit the website anymore, like the basic function. So then I had to upgrade to something else, and that took like I had to recreate my whole website. It's exhausting. I just want to write about people kissing. I don't want to have to be a marketing professional at the same time. But alas, that's the career I have chosen.
right. Yeah, and used to you didn't have to kind of be that way, and now I feel like we've got to be kind of all in one. There's no such thing as just a writer. I mean, a writer
No,
wears many caps anymore, and sometimes, I mean, it can just be like you said, exhausting because there's only so many hours in the day. So what are you gonna do?
exactly. And so when you do make time to write, which is all we really wanted to do, anyways, are there any type of writing rituals that you do or anything to kind of get yourself in the mindset to block out all the other hats we have to wear?
So traditionally, I will always listen to music. Music tends to help calm me down, but it also gets me in the right mood so I can listen to, whatever vibes I need to get in that mindset. But that's really the main thing. The other thing is I try to not to have any distractions. So my phone's on charge. I'm not checking social media. My kids are asleep or hopefully laying down. It's evening and things are just, dogs are laying down. It's quiet, peaceful because what happens is if I got to get up constantly or I'm distracted, I feel like I don't write as well, because my
Yeah.
brain's having to kind of be split in all these directions where if I can sit down, and write, I can write 30 pages in 2 days or more.
Yeah.
I've done it. And that's my wife's a weekend CNA on the night shift, so a lot of my writing is mainly on the weekends. I'm not traveling or doing anything, while she's working because my oldest son's gone working, staying at my grandma's, and the youngest 2 boys are watching tablets or TV and kind of just chilling. And it's just kind of peaceful. I can blast my music on my laptop and keep on going.
Yeah, music's a huge thing for me too. I create playlists for pretty much every major project I do. Or if it's a project that's very character heavy, like the audio drama I just released, each character gets their own playlist. And it's such a great way to just switch my brain to the right setting. Like as soon as I hear certain songs, my brain is like, "Oh, this character. Oh, we were doing this." And I can just like slide right back into the scene.
You can almost close your eyes and you can just, it's like you're in the moment. You're there,
Yeah.
you can feel it. The smells there, the sounds there, the scenery. the festivals or whatever jive. It's all right there. So I wasn't a big music person honestly until I started writing. My wife was more the music person in the family, but really music has helped my writing. I feel like tremendously, and it's helped me be more productive when those moments we can squeeze into write. So
Yeah, because you're working, you have kids, like I'm a mom, and your time is very precious. So if you're sitting down to write, I know me personally, I need to take advantage of that time. Like I was trying to write, my son's a little older now, but he's on the spectrum, so his schedule can get messed up when he's on vacation. So he's on vacation now, and normally he's fine. He's on his laptop, but he was really excited to be home with me that first Monday because he didn't have to go to school. So like I did my usual routine and I tried to write, and he's just like kind of pleasantly jabbering away in the corner, and I was like, oh, that's not going to happen today. Because it was just like, nope, it's just not, the vibe's not happening. It is not a relaxed environment right now. But like you were saying, like I was writing, but I didn't feel like it wasn't going really anywhere. Like I as it would have if I was like in my normal quiet setting. Like I was kind of having to force it, and when I have to force it, then it's not fun. So I'm like, nope, you know what? We're just gonna tell my client that it's this week's gonna be busy, and she may not hear from me.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you. The kids were on spring break last week, and it just drove my wife crazy. I mean, and traditionally at night, when the normal routine that kind of went out the hat. I tried, but it just failed epically.
Yeah, at a certain point, you just kind of like, you're like, well, I just have to throw my pen down. It's just not happening.
You brought up something too, is that when you write, you want it to be productive and you want it to be good writing. I mean, I've had to grind through some pages and stuff, and I'm the same way. I really try not to do that unless I'm trying to meet a deadline,
Yeah,
because it is writing, but when you're half asleep or half tired or you're just not feeling it, you got a lot of edits or it's just not the vibe that you're wanting to put. So, I mean, I do try to write as much as I can, but if it's not the right vibe or the right atmosphere, I just won't even attempt it because it's not the good writing, the productive
yeah.
writing that you really need.
Yeah, and you end up making more work for yourself because it takes longer, because you're having to force it, and then you probably end up rewriting it anyways. So, at
Yeah.
least for me personally, that's the way it happens. So, I just found, well, through years of therapy and work on myself, I've developed a little voice to be like, you're going to be more productive if you just give up right now and try it later.
I've done the same, and I mean that's part of the reason I've had a lot of late nights and things like that, especially on the weekends when my wife's been working because I really try not to start writing until it's that later at night, 7, 8 o'clock at night. But it's the struggle thing. I feel like, especially with newer writers or writers that doesn't don't have a lot of books out, it's that balance and struggle that everyone kind of deals with in the beginning because you still got to produce it and get your name out there, but it's not like you have 10 other books that are selling or kind of
Yeah.
known. You're building up to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's been several years since I released a book. And the last two books I released, I had written years before I released them. They were just kind of hanging out in my drafts. So I don't have any more of those. But I also had to stop working on my series to work on another passion project, which is the audio drama I mentioned before. So I was like writing, but like in a different context. And then it was audio. So then it was just like, oh, I think almost a year of editing, or like at least a
Wow.
good like 6 months of editing. And there was just, aside from my ghostwriting job that I do on the side, there was no room for writing during that time because it literally took like 100% of my concentration to have to sift through audio and things like that. So even though I'm making progress on my current book, I'm like the urge to speed up is there because I haven't released a book in a while, but then I'm like, don't do that. Like, just take it at your own pace. You don't have to rush. No one's poking you for this book at the moment. Only you are. So you really do have to try to find that balance of wanting to get the work out there, but not wanting to burn yourself out or rush the process.
Yeah, because it could be, I mean, you can burn yourself out pretty quick, you know, and I mean, I know it's a grind sometimes, but you can really it's hard. It's really easy to do, easier than most people think, you know, and I believe that everything, everything happens for a reason. And if it was written, it was meant to be written. So, and especially in those good productive moments. But you hear about writers being burnt out all the time because, like,
Yeah.
like we said, it's not just a writer. You're the marketer, you're the sales pitch guy, you're the bookstore liaison, you're the designer. A lot of times people do the artwork, like you're all those things. So it's
Yeah.
really easy to kind of get overwhelmed with all those different aspects that go into it that's behind the scenes.
Yeah. When I started my indie author career in 2018, I think it was, I burnt out so fast because I also had part-time jobs at the time, was trying to figure everything out, and I was just working way too much. So I had to put a limit. I had to cut myself off at like 4 p.m. I had to not work on weekends because even now I'll do a little bit here and there on weekends just because I'm pretty swamped at the moment. But I try not to because by the time I get to Monday when, husband's off at work and kids off at school, there's no energy left. Like which is like the prime work time. I have like 6 hours home alone.
Right.
And I'm just like in the armchair, like, well, I guess I'm watching Golden Girls today. Like, because there's just nothing else left. I'm just tapped out.
Yeah, I've been there. I really hope to one day write full time. That's kind of my goal. I mean, I enjoy working in a hospital and helping patients and that. And next month, my CNA, and RN classes, they call them a little bit differently in the hospital, but they're kind of equivalent to that start. So I'll be doing that for the next 6 months to a year online. And I really enjoy what I do, but I really love writing. I love traveling. I love sightseeing. I love getting meet readers, seeing the world kind of lighten up. I love getting workshops. I love doing this kind of thing. So I hope down the road, that's my goal, is to be a full time writer.
Yeah, it's wild. I'm still not used to it because even though I left to do this for a good chunk of that time, I had to homeschool my son. So it ended up being a blessing that I left my full time job because things kind of fell through with his elementary school and I would have had to leave anyways. So I like preemptively left without knowing that 2 years later I was going to have to start homeschooling. So it wasn't until 2023 that I actually was a full time writer, like during the day. I wasn't balancing homeschool and therapies and all this other stuff. And it was a hard transition. Then it's only now that I fell into a good rhythm with it. And that I'm like, okay, all right, I'm producing stuff now. All right. I'm not like having to split my focus as much, except for this week, of course. Uh,
Spring
uh,
breaks, yep.
yep, every time. But since this is a writing advice podcast, I like to ask writers what is the best or worst piece of writing advice you've ever received?
Well, I'd say the best piece of advice was never give up on your dreams, and keep going. And a big chunk of really kind of what made me, be an international author and travel. I've been to UK once. I'll be there a couple more times coming up, and I've got readers really everywhere and teams everywhere. But one person said, there's more people than where you live at that read. And so it kind of always stuck with me because I feel like a lot of writers struggle, but and I know traveling can be expensive, but at the same time, it's sometimes hard, depending on your community and how many people are
Yeah.
in your city or farm town or wherever you live to build that readership base that you need to be sustainable as a writer in today's kind of world. So really my advice to them is to never stop writing. Number one, always keep following your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you different, especially if you love what you're doing. But just remember there's more people out there than kind of where you're located at, because that can really help with building the readership base and things like that as well.
Yeah, I live in a very small town. And I came from a relatively small town and just moved to a different one. And it's only been, again, in the last 2 years that I've started doing events, but more importantly, doing events in other states, at least in the surrounding area. And it's just a completely different pool of people. And it's people that don't know you and haven't heard you talk about your books like
Right.
30,000 times. And I mean, even with the audio drama, which is out there and can be listened internationally, that has been wild. And like you were talking about traveling, I haven't traveled, but looking at the breakdown of downloads and listens, like we have the United States as like our top one, but then we have the UK and Australia, and it's just baffling and wild to me and my actors in this small town to be like, there are people in Australia who have listened to our series.
Right.
It's so cool. So, as much as it can suck, the internet can be good for some things.
Yes, I agree, and it's such a surreal feeling knowing how much everybody's interconnected. I mean, I've met people that live not that far away from me or are from not that far away from me in the travels, or they live north of Indiana, or I mean, I've met people on Instagram or whatever that you never know they was in a different country. I
Yeah.
mean, it's all kind of interconnected. So it's really especially prominent, I believe, to put yourself out there, and I always tell writers too that no matter what people say or do, that, you should still never give up, and you should always put your name out there, and regardless of what's gonna happen or anything like that, because, there may be a few people that, well, they don't like your work, but that's okay because we're all
Yeah.
interconnected, and, I mean, the world's a big place.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Chances are at least a couple of people are going to like your work. It's so easy to give in to the imposter syndrome of it. And I know that is a huge thing for a lot of authors. And it's something I've worked on for many years of like, oh, why would people read my stuff? You know what I mean? That kind of self deprecation that can happen. But you never know what's going to resonate with people. I mean, I have a friend that I met on Instagram, and she listened to my very first audio drama, which came out many years ago. And it doesn't have many downloads, but it was a very important story to me. And when I catch up with her every now and then, she's like, I still think about that story. So it's just like, not many
that's
people heard
awesome.
it, but one person has not been able to stop thinking about it since she heard it, and I will take that. I will take that over everything else.
Oh, I don't blame you there. It's one changing a life and making a difference and making an impact, even just one person. It's life changing, especially being a writer. Knowing that someone really enjoys your story, it's made a difference, it's made impact, and even to this day, they're still thinking about it. I mean, that's another one of those like surreal kind of moments that
Yeah.
you feel like, well, hey, I did something and people like it.
Yeah.
And so I've always told people that, there's someone out there, there's your crowd, and that's part of being a new writer, I guess. You got to find your crowd and you got to find your people and your readers because everybody's different on what they read.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that feeling of people being like, "Oh, well, this story's kind of been done before." And just rip the band-aid off. Every story has been done before in some form.
Oh,
But it's your own flair and what you do with it. And I always compare it to that meme of somebody like putting a cake down and being like, "Oh, this person's cake looks better than mine," and then it cuts to somebody else who's like, "Oh yeah, there's two cakes." Like it's just like oh, I'm writing this trope, and then there's somebody who that's like an automatic read for them. Like if that trope is there, they will read it. Like there's something for everyone, and it's important to try to keep that in your mind when you're starting your indie author journey because it can get a little hairy out there.
It can, and I mean, I've been the new kid on the block for a while now, and even me with where I've been and who I've met and that, I still feel like I'm a new kid on the block for a lot of times, and even different events I've been to a couple times now. I'm still kind of the new kid on the block out there. I feel like with every different genre I publish or different book, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's brand new, so you're not kind of this famous person, I guess, and so it's definitely a very humbling feeling, but it just takes one. You
Yeah.
can't stop. You got to keep going. And something Brandon Sanderson, I was listening to a podcast of his when he was teaching, and something that really still stuck with me now, and it stuck with me before. But he said we're all trying to write the same story. That the key is to put your own unique twist on it, and
Yeah.
that's what catches readers. So yeah, it's all kind of maybe the same, but it's your own twist on it in your story, and that's what makes it worth reading. And so I feel like a lot of readers and a lot of writers, they forget that as they're in their journey or they're thinking about, well, I want to write a book because I'm reading all this stuff and I've got an idea. It can be overwhelming or daunting, but if you just remember that, hey, we're all kind of sharing the same tale, we're just putting our own twist on it and
Yeah.
make it you and unique, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is a great place to wrap this up. Thank you, Ryan, so much for joining me. Where can people find you online?
Currently, I'm on Amazon. I'm Drafted Digital. I do have a website I'm working on, but I'm everywhere. Google Play. That you can always contact me in my email. It's ryannull921 at gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram at Ryan John Null. I'm on TikTok. I've got a YouTube channel, LinkedIn, Facebook, really Substack, just about everywhere. You just really Google my name and or Google the books, and it'll pop up a bunch of different things. So
And I will put a couple of those links in the description of this episode so you guys can connect with Ryan anywhere and everywhere.
thank you.
This is a reminder that I do have a Patreon. Patrons receive episodes up to 2 days earlier than the general public. There are exclusive blogs and podcast episodes that are only found on Patreon. You'll also receive discounts on writing services, behind the scenes tidbits for Battle Cry, including access to our blooper reel, access to my Discord server, and shout outs in future podcast episodes. So head over to patreon.com/Leani M. Lopez or check out the link in the description. Thank you again, Ryan, for joining me. This was such a delight. And thank you to everyone for listening. And as always, happy writing.